Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kind of Funny Games Daily for Tuesday, September 27th, 2022. I'm one of your hosts, Blessing Adeoye Jr., and I'm joined by host of PS I Love You, XOXO, and WWE's This Is Awesome, Greg Miller.
Hello, Blessing. How are you?
Doing good, Greg. How's it going?
It's not going well, Blessing. If we're going to
no.
be honest and we're going to be straightforward and we're going to be, when you started working here, you and I took our relationship to the next level where I said I would always be honest with you. I would always have your back. And so what I don't like seeing is when I open Twitter and I see a disgruntled, former, washed up, kind of funny employee trying to push you around. And of course, the man I'm talking about needs no introduction. He is a leech on the industry. He is a bad person.
Jesus.
He is a rain cloud over all of us. And that's Jared Petty. And Jared Petty came at you today.
The
you know
nicest
what I mean?
human being on planet Earth.
You were making a little fun tweet about KFGD and saying sometimes it's a slow news day, which never happens here. Don't worry about that. Always watch the show. Always click on it.
I'll tell you right now. I was wrong. I found
there's some good stuff in this report, right? However, he comes at you and said, you make a little joke, great, and then he goes, how about the big news that you're not going to be a chump and you've decided to play Suikoden 2 after all because you like good video games? Why come out and throw this on you? Why come and attack you? He came at me the same way when the Suikoden 2 remake got announced. You know what I mean? As if it's our fault that we're not as old as he is.
He just loves Suikoden. I think there are two things here for me to point out. One, he did say that I have good taste in video games. Like, it started off as him being like, "Oh, don't be a chump," but then it ended on, "Hey, you have good taste in video games. You should play Suikoden," which I appreciate.
But that's not what he's saying, though. You know what I mean? Because I think he's trying to paint you into a corner, saying that if you're not going to give Suikoden 2 a chance, you don't like good video games. It's not really. He's not complimenting you here. There's no compliment in this from Jared Petty.
My second thing then is, how much of this is your fault, Greg Miller, in terms of influencing Jared Petty? Because when I've been an IGN listener, IGN podcast listener. I've been a Kind of Funny podcast listener for almost a decade at this point, right? And I've heard many of Jared Petty on a podcast. Yeah, and when I first started hearing Jared Petty, Jared Petty pop up on podcasts, he's always been the sweetest, the most humble, the most kind of human beings in this industry and on this planet Earth, right? He's a very nice man. But I feel like once he started interacting with you more and more and appearing more and more on Kind of Funny content, I've seen this. Maybe I'll call it like a symbiote. I've seen this symbiote take over Jared Petty, where he's more willing to throw around the insults and be more aggressive. And do you think that might be Greg Miller's influence on Jared Petty?
No. What it is that, again, what I did is gave Jared Petty a platform. Because before, when he would just ooze through the cracks of a podcast and come to, Doki Doki, and tell you some fact about a Japanese game, you know what I mean? First off, I don't appreciate that Janet Garcia is in the chat saying Greg does bring out the worst in people. Right?
She also follows up and says, I'm awful, and it's because I look up to Greg.
All right, that's fair enough. But Janet, look at that thing. It's like the Johnny Cash song, A Boy Named Sue, all right? Like, yeah, am I mean to all of you? Yeah, but you're tough as leather now. Nobody can break you. Nobody can hurt you. Anyways, Jared Petty always played it off like such a nice guy, the Reverend, yeah. And then you talk to him for 10 minutes, you're like, oh my God, you're a pervert. You know what I mean? Like, you're fucked up.
And he'd be like,
yeah, I am. And then he'd take a bite of ham. All right. So it's just that I gave him the platform that now you know so much about him. You know this as well.
I've hung out with Jared. I've not gotten that impression of Jared Petty. Bear, you've hung out with Jared too. Is Jared deep down just like a terrible human being?
Not a terrible human being. He's just a normal human being.
No.
Are we not all perverts? I ask you that.
I mean, I feel like at one point you were trying to paint Blessing only as a pervert on this platform and not yourself.
But again,
that is because I have good video game taste, and Greg is jealous that I can play great JRPGs like Nier Automata and Genshin Impact.
No, it was the one with all the nudies, all the nude. There was a bunch of 13-year-old kids who got nude, and they were like all supple. Yeah, 13
also a fantastic video game. Also a fantastic video. The nudity wasn't shown; it was implied. It was implied nudity.
First off, it's not implied when literally one of the screenshots again is like a woman down in her mech suit or whatever, but it is her bare back and the top of her bare ass. We know what's happening in there.
That's still.
I think you showed me one that had the man as well, same way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they're a grown up, and again, all of it is implied. You're not seeing nip nips in 13 Sentinels.
Sure.
Yeah,
and which is what held it back from being a 10 in your opinion.
I mean, yeah, you know.
Anyways, so mainly I thought you were gonna go a different route with this, because if you remember, Jared Petty a long time ago would come on Podcast Beyond and he would talk about Suikoden 2, and we're all like, well, you can't play it, whatever. And then finally it came as a classic. And I was like, I'll play it on Vita because it came to Vita or whatever. And I played a little bit of it and I fell out of it, and I don't remember anything remarkable about it. And he still holds that over my head. You know what I mean? And so that's why I see him coming at you, and I'm saying, Jared, be a man and come at me. All right, ladies and gentlemen? What's this, Wesson?
That's the PlayStation Vita.
And I am charging it during the show, and I'll re-download Suikoden 2, and I'm going to give it another shot.
Wow. Is it because deep down you know that Jared's actually a good person and not the terrible person you're painting him as?
Again, I never paint him as a terrible person. You know what I mean? He's just fucked up like the rest of us, but everybody likes to think that he's like, literally manna from heaven, all right?
I mean, he is.
See, there you go. That's not helping the situation, Barrett, all right, by spreading these lies, all right?
I did also respond to Jared saying that I'm now interested in Suikoden, the remasters / the remakes, the ones that are coming to current gen next year. I think I might hop into those, and that's mainly based on me
peer pressure,
a little bit of peer pressure, but also me seeing the reverence that people have for Suikoden on the timeline when they announced the remaster. I was shocked by how many people absolutely love Suikoden, but then also looking at my own game tastes. Like, I put out a tweet a few days ago talking about how, like, I finally identified my favorite kind of game. This is me coming off of Inscription, where, like, I kind of connected the dots of, like, yo, I love Inscription. I love games like Earthbound, games like Live Alive, games like Undertale.
I gotta pause you. I'm sorry. I agree with you, and I remember this tweet. Janet again, just throwing haymakers out in the chat. Quote, I never said he was terrible, end quote. 3 minutes before, quote, Jared is a bad person. Janet,
I was going to call you on
ask you. I know you're just a freelancer, all right? I know you can come in here drunk off your ass and do a podcast. We can't do a damn thing about it. But I'll ask you right now, are bad and terrible not two different adjectives on the kind of funny scale? Shooting star Greg Miller proves this point. Thank you.
Wow. 2 out of 5. Not a 1 out of 5. Woo! Fantastic. But no, it's mainly me coming off of my love of Live Alive, and that being a classic Square JRPG, and how much I love that when they remade that and put it in modern HD 2D graphics or whatever. The Suikoden remake, the screenshots that they've shown, it looks pretty good, right? It doesn't look like Live Alive or the HD 2D stuff, but it looks good enough to where I'm like, all right, if this scratches that same itch, and if the mechanics of this game are as good people are saying it is, I'll give it a shot. I might like this thing. So that's where I'm at with it. It's not even just the Jared Petty peer pressure. It's me analyzing my own tastes and what I like out of a JRPG / out of a game, and going, okay, there might be something here. And so look forward to.
And that's probably what will keep me away from it. I'm gonna, like I said, I'll give it the college try. And I'll start at that. I got a Michelle Branch concert to watch tonight. I'm doing one of them live concerts on the internet. You know what I mean?
Wait, on the internet?
Yeah, I'm not going to a concert.
Oh, I'm going to a concert on Friday. Really excited about it. Snuck up on me. Lupe Fiasco. He's touring his second album, The Cool.
You wear your mask.
One of my favorite albums ever. Oh, of course I'm wearing my mask.
But the thing is, like, I'm not a big JRPG
It's a Lupe Fiasco concert, though, so there's going to be 10 people there, but go on. No offense to Lupe Fiasco. I love Lupe Fiasco, but it's not a Kendrick Lamar concert by any means.
Sure, understandable.
It's a very small theater.
Michelle Branch came to San Francisco for this tour, and I thought about going, but then I looked at the tickets and they were just standing, and I'm like, I don't want to stand. I don't want to do that. We had this conversation. Me and Barrett have had this conversation on a podcast before. Great American Music Hall versus anything else. I went to a show for Michelle Branch at Slim's years ago, and it was standing room only. It was me, Jen, Tim, and G, and the back sucked. Then I had taken G to see Vanessa Carlton. We all got to sit great.
Rest in peace, Slim's. Great venue that was a house to a lot of pop punk shows. Rest in peace.
Wow.
Had that weird pole in the middle of the fucking venue too.
Yes, it did. I think I was back by it where I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of Twitter, I have another tweet I want to bring up. Have you ever had one of those tweets, Greg, where you tweet it out and you're like, this should have popped off more. Like, this deserves more appreciation. Last night,
legitimately pretty much every one of my tweets. But yeah, go ahead.
Fair enough. Yesterday I had the opposite, where I had a tweet that I view as overrated. Joel in the Hole, right? Where I put out that tweet and I was like, this is gonna be funny to me, right? And a handful of people. Barry, you can find and bring it up for the people who might have missed this tweet, right? It was the Elf on the Shelf thing, right? Where you've heard of Elf on the Shelf, now get ready for ... And it's the picture from the Last of Us trailer of Bill finding Joel in the hole, right? And the joke there was like, get ready for Joel in the hole. And I got so many likes on this thing and so many replies on this thing with most of the people thinking I made the joke Bill on the Hill.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve these likes. It has over 3,000 likes right now, a lot of retweets. I don't deserve any of this.
No, you know what? You do deserve, because now it's got a double meaning. You've heard of Elf on the Shelf. Now get ready for Bill on the Hill and Joel in a Hole.
It's just the fact
that's
that
one
I
of those where you got
the
right answer, but you didn't get there with the right work. You know what I mean? But who cares? You got the right answer, so just let it be. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is you did a great one of you leave it open just for interpretation, so people just think you're brilliant, and then no matter what they think, they project onto you.
That's fair. I'll take it. But Greg, enough about Twitter. Enough about concerts. Let's talk about video game news stories, because today's news stories include Disney winning a Star Wars game every 6 months, Marvel not winning a video game MCU, and more, because this is Kinda Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday at 10 a.m. live right here on youtube.com/kindafunnygames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. If you're watching live, you can correct us when we get stuff wrong by going to kindafunny.com/you're wrong. If we don't want to watch live, you can watch later on youtube.com/kindafunnygames, roosterteeth.com, or you can listen later on podcast services around the globe by searching for Kinda Funny Games Daily. Remember, you can use Epic Creator Code Kinda Funny on all Epic Store and Epic in-game purchases like Rocket League and Fortnite to help support the channel. To be a part of the show, to patreon.com/kindafunnygames, or bronze members or above get to write in, and silver members or above get the show ad-free with the exclusive daily post show. Housekeeping for you, Kinda Feudy has another brand new survey. Woo! This time, it's not just video game questions. Don't ask why, just go with the flow. It's the most fun survey you'll fill out this week, so hop on over to my Twitter and find the link and fill it out. And then week 3 of the Kinda Funny Football League was absolute insanity. Aaron Rodgers, Rahul Kohli, and the Packers took on Parris Lilley, Gary Whitta, and the Buccaneers. Also, Nick Scarpino did his best to make sure that the 49ers would fail. Did he succeed? Check out the VOD right now on youtube.com/kindafunnyplays. Also, there's a new Kinda Funny podcast up that is a must-watch. Some may say that it's worth the $1. Find that on youtube.com/kindafunny and on podcast services. And let me tell you, I'm be honest, I rarely tune into the Kinda Funny podcast just because I'm lazy and a bad fan. But I saw Joey talking about chili in the Slack, and I was like, I gotta know what this is about. And so I tuned in to the Patreon recording, the live recording, and I was utterly shocked by the content that took place.
We've been on a roll. The last 2 weeks have been the core crew reunited after a million studio things and trips and vacations. And yeah, the Andy episode this week is another certified classic.
Yeah. One of the thoughts I had, and I put this in the live chat as the Patreon episode was going.
Sure.
Am I one of the more normal people at this company? Because I used to think that I was one of the least normal people here. But the more I learn about Mike Howard, and the more I learn about Andy Cortez, and the stuff I already know about Greg Miller, I'm starting to put myself smack dab in the middle.
It's that thing where Jen and I were talking about this last night, because the Mike episode was crazy enough to pull her in. And then I was recapping the Andy episode last night and explaining why she needs to listen to it. And I was like, yeah, I just work with crazy people. And she's like, or everyone is just weird. It's just not kind of funny. Everyone is weird. Because it is that, like, everybody's not skeletons in your closet, but y'all have your personal quirks that just make you a weirdo, right? Because as you run down the line, I'm looking in my head and thinking about it. Perhaps Joey Noelle is the most normal of us, but then you get into this obsession with Mamma Mia and Grease 2.
But I think where do we draw the line? But I think her obsession with those things is, like, compared to all of our weird shit, probably more normal. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
Is it the fact that the people that appear most normal at this company are the people that appear the least on podcasts? Because I think Greg might be onto something, right? Yeah. I think the more you put somebody in a microphone, the more you learn how insane each person is.
That's the thing about it, where you really get into what's going on. I would honestly put myself out there as one of the more sane people, I think, if you were to look at
absolutely not.
If you were to look at the body of evidence on all beanless chili Andy Cortez under his desk for 2 years, like, come on now.
I'm gonna say Joey and Cool Greg are the most normal people at the company.
Cool Greg, yes. I love Cool Greg. This ain't throwing shade at Cool Greg. Cool Greg,
yes.
No. If you put Cool Greg on an episode of Kinda Funny Games Daily every single day.
Slack? Do you remember the video he put into Slack randomly in Golden Gate Park interviewing a woman who got hit by a car? Like, that's normal?
I said this having that video in mind, and I think that's more to say about us than it does about Cool Greg.
Snow Mike, I am 100% the most normal jabroni on this team.
Fuck off, Mike. Get the fuck out of here, Michael.
Jeans hurt your legs so you get naked in parking lots. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Mike? No, we have a game show to do.
I'm putting Tim as number 1 most normal. I'm putting
what we should do
Nick at number 2, me number 3.
We should table this. Well, I'm sorry, you can do your rankings or whatever, but we should table this. Barrett, put it on some document right now. We do a bracketed tournament during Kind of Funny Day, during the stream for the new studio on October 14th. We will declare who the most normal is.
We'll
let the audience vote. The audience will know, so we can just put up polls.
All right. Fair enough. I like this idea. Thank you to our Patreon producer, Fargo Brady. Today we're brought to you by NZXT Canvas Gaming Monitors and Uplift, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is, and forever will be, the Roper Report. It's time for some news. We have 6 stories today.
A baker's dozen.
Starting with our number 1. Greg, earlier today I put out a tweet saying that sometimes when there's a slow news day for Kind of Funny Games Daily, I just type in video game news into Google and see what pops up. And you know what? That actually succeeded today. I actually found a really good news story that slipped by me originally. So we're starting off with story number 1. Disney wants a new Star Wars game every 6 months. This comes from Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming, a news source that that is not in my regular rotation because they're brand new, that now I have to stick into my regular rotation because
Tom Henderson's the guy who is like freelance for a long time, broke news stories everywhere. And then when he launched this site, or helped launch this site, I'm not 100% sure on that part. And he launched it with that, hey, the PlayStation might have a detachable disk drive.
Yeah, so this site is only about a week or 2 old. But yeah, like they're coming out with the bangers. And so shout out to Insider Gaming. The article reads like this. Sources have suggested that the entertainment giant Disney wants a new Star Wars video game released every 6 months. It's understood that Disney wants one major AAA title and one smaller game per fiscal year, which is something Lucasfilm is set to deliver on. The ramp up in video game development for Star Wars games comes after EA lost its exclusivity access to the franchise. So far, 8 Star Wars titles have been announced to be in development, many of which do not have a scheduled release date. We got Amy Hennig's game from Skydance Media. We got an untitled FPS from Respawn Entertainment, an open world game from Ubisoft Massive, Star Wars Eclipse from Quantic Dream, Knights of the Old Republic remake from Saber Interactive, Jedi Survivor, the Fallen Order sequel from Respawn Entertainment, Star Wars Hunters from Zynga, and then an untitled strategy game coming from Respawn Entertainment. These 8 games are the only titles that have been announced, with sources suggesting that there are several more in pre-development. Some of the already 8 announced titles are believed to be some time away from release too. In fact, some of these titles are believed to be at least 4 years away. Quantic Dream's Star Wars Eclipse seems to be one such title, with sources citing that the game will be a development nightmare for the studio. Issues mainly stem from Quantic Dream's engine, which is apparently inadequate for such a large-scale project. Such problems have led sources to believe that Eclipse probably won't release at least until 2026. An obvious choice for a not yet announced project would be a Mandalorian game, which was teased last year by Xbox era's Nick Special. His tweet has since been removed. I've heard of rumors of a Mandalorian game, and this is back to the article, behind the scenes for a while now. But so far, these rumors have seemed to stem from speculation due to the success of the series. But if anything happens, I'll update. And that's the end of the news story. Greg Miller, 2 Star Wars games a year. Is that too much? Is that too little? Is that just about right? Well, how's this forge sticking for you?
Sounds bad. The headline, Disney wants a new Star Wars game every 6 months, sounds bad. However, I would contend that it wouldn't be. And I think, that breaking down Tom's article, right, it's understood that Disney wants one major AAA title, one smaller game per fiscal year, right? It also says, it talks about wanting. Obviously, wanting and what will actually happen are 2 very different things. I think when you stop and think for a second, and I'm very much talking out of school in a way, but it would strike me probably similar to what Marvel Games is doing, right? Where they have Marvel Snap coming up this year, right? Obviously, we're all excited for Spider-Man 2. Like, you start talking about like what a big game is for them versus something like Marvel Puzzle Quest or Conquest of Champions, or the one that I always forget that action RPG I played a little bit of, but I couldn't use a backbone, and I hate that I can't use a backbone for it. Those mobile experiences then offsetting these things. And I think when you get into that mobile realm, you get into such an interesting place where, yes, there are the fans of Star Wars or Marvel in the experiment I'm using, or example I'm using, that would go and play everything Marvel. But then there's so many other people, me, that's a Marvel fan, where it's like, oh, I'll play a bit of Puzzle Quest. All right, I fell off of it. And then I don't play Conquest of Champions. I try the action RPG. That's not for me. I'm excited for Snap, right? This the card game that Tim likes so much that he's been playing the beta for. That I don't have to play everything. Whereas I think, when you hear this headline, we obviously are all, hardcore gamers or whatever, core gamers, that you sit there and go, oh man, a console game every 6 months to a year. Yeah, like that gets outrageous. I think that sounds like a good clip. I think having a Star Wars game every year, and I'm just talking about a AAA Star Wars game every year, sounds like a good plan. I don't think that's too much. And I think that is serving an audience that is there, and it is back to me being a very casual Star Wars fan. Like, obviously I can't wait for the next, what is it? Jedi Survivor. Is that what it's called? Right?
Yeah. Jedi Survivor.
Fallen Order 2. I can't wait for that. Right. But like, I didn't play, the cockpit shooty one that came out, right? Yeah, Squadrons. I played that at an event and I was like, okay, this is cool, but it ain't for me. Like, that's just not the Star Wars dream I have for it. But there were other people that did want that, and vice versa. And I'll be through that. I'd be all about a Mandalorian game. That'd be super fun to go do and stuff like that. So I think this sounds like a good thing. I don't think this sounds like too much. When you hear it as just a headline, 280 characters, I think it can sound like, oh my God, they're milking the franchise. They're doing this thing. When in reality, they're trying to serve an audience, serve the Star Wars fan. Am I wrong, Bless?
No, I agree. I agree with you 100%. Like, I look at this, and for me, it's not too different from what we're already getting in terms of the big Star Wars games. Like, as you were talking, I was trying to find a list of like Star Wars games ordered by release date, just to see what has been the cadence we've been getting Star Wars games lately. And if you look, right, this last year we got Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. 2020 we got Star Wars Squadrons. The year before that, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. The year 2 years before that, we got Star Wars Battlefront 2. Right, and it's not been yearly, but it's been close to either every year or either every other year. We've been getting that.
And again, we get back to that want, right? Where it's like clearly games are going to slip and they're going to get longer, and what should have been 6 months will take 18.
Exactly. And I think the comparison to what Marvel Games is doing kind of makes it make sense more, where I don't think every single Marvel game feels the same by any means, right?
Also
like you
true.
Can get what was the one that you liked on the Switch? Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 3.
Yeah, Ultimate Alliance 3.
Or you can get a Spider-Man Miles Morales, or you can get a Guardians of the Galaxy, or you can get Marvel Snap, right? And all these things feel different to some extent. You might compare Guardians of the Galaxy to a Spider-Man, but even those are different properties, even though they're Marvel. Those feel like different games. Those have different mechanics. One's a shooter, one is just a 3D action open world game. And I'm sure the Wolverine game that we'll get in a few years, that is going to be a maybe linear, maybe open world. We'll see what it is. But that's going to be a violent Wolverine action game that will even feel different enough from Spider-Man to make that feel like its own thing. I think you can do the same thing with Star Wars, and I think the sky's the limit in terms of not only just the different developers that you can work with for Star Wars, but then the different genres and the different kinds of games you make. Because again, you didn't play Star Wars Squadron, and that would count as a big AAA Star Wars game. But you'll probably play the next Jedi Fallen Order game, right? You'll play Jedi Survivors.
And that's the hope, right? You figure, like, I think what so many people wanted, and I'm a casual Star Wars fan here, but what people kind of wanted out of Star Wars when it got announced that Disney took over and they were going to have so many movies, right, was really, okay, cool, let's explore the universe, right? And, Barrett, I know you're a huge Star Wars fan, so please, tell me if I'm off mark here, but like, it was that idea of people were so disappointed in the new trilogy being so tied into, oh, it's all about Skywalker still, it's still this thing. Like, I think the more they can explore that area and space in what they want to do in it, I think it's good. And it's why, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Barrett, Andor seems to be getting a lot of love right now, is that it's not the member berries. I saw that tweet go around. It's not remember this. It's like, no, here's a cool story happening that doesn't have to be on Tatooine, that doesn't have to call back to this. It can just go off and do its own thing. And when you think about, like, what would if Disney wants to get nuts and they want to get crazy with it, what's a Star Wars horror game look like? You know what I mean? What does,
I've been
the Star Wars
for that for years.
Right, like get in there and get weird with it and have a whole bunch of different genres. Does this excite you, Barrett? What do you think about this?
Yeah, like this is what I've been wanting, since Disney. And then it was, I feel like even back then when they made the announcement, the partnership with EA, I was like, oh, this is a mistake, And I think if this was all one publisher in charge of, like, not like Lucasfilm, whatever it is, wherever John Drake works.
Disney.
If it was all EA doing it, or all Ubisoft, or all Warner, not Warner Brothers, obviously, but like,
I know what you mean.
If they were in charge of releasing a Star Wars game every year, and it's like, well, yeah, we have that example. It was EA. They released 3. It was Star Wars Battlefront, then Battlefront 2, and then Fallen Order, and that was kind of a shit show for a long time, right? And so the fact that they are actually trying to diversify, as we've been seeing with Marvel for the last few years, in the game sphere. I think that's really, really exciting because, like you guys have already been saying, there's, Star Wars fans, but then there's like in that fans, not every Star Wars fan is going to like the same kind of game, right? Even I wasn't as into Squadrons, even though I like the dogfighting in Battlefront 2 and stuff like that. And so, yeah, that's really exciting. And yeah, I've been asking for a Star Wars Dead Space like game for, I want to say 15 years, because there is check kindoffunny.com/you're wrong. Let me know. There was a book that was kind of like that, where it was like this, like a Star Destroyer that like got super messed up in the middle of space, and it was like all horror themed and stuff like that. And I remember reading that back in like middle school, and I was like, they should do a Dead Space essentially out of this. And awesome. Yeah, and so I think we will see that in the coming years of definitely different types of games, and I think that's very exciting. But also let's bring it back old school, and let's make a new racer game.
Star Wars Demolition. Let's get it, Barrett. I'm ready. Give me a Twisted Metal Star Wars game. And Star Wars Racer, I would fucking
It was called Death Troopers. Thank you, chat.
Death Troopers.
That was the
But yeah, I think that's the point here, is that there's so much potential to do different things with the property, whether it is different eras, whether it is following different characters, or whether it is different genres. And we've already seen that happen. We have a Star Wars first-person shooter in Star Wars Battlefront. We have a Star Wars third-person action games with Soul Styles combat in the way of Star Wars Jedi. We have a Lego Star Wars game in the way of Lego, right? And I'm not playing all of those, but I am playing the ones that I care about. And that takes me back to the PS2 era. I feel like we had, and PS2 and PS4 era, I feel like we had so many Star Wars games. In fact, I want to say it was probably this cadence of Star Wars games in terms of yearly releases, because I remember,
and that's
so
where you
many
get into
titles.
trouble, though, right? Where it was so many of those weren't great. There were. I'm not talking shit about every one of them. Don't get me wrong, but it was that idea of what a licensed game would be, and I think there still is that fear of that's what it would be, is that you would just get quantity over quality, and obviously that could still happen here. But I think, again, taking the Marvel games mantra and example, right? I hope you'd see that from the Star Wars folks, as if they were gonna really move with this and go for it.
Yeah, and I'll think that every now and then you can still get your Star Wars Battlefronts, not the new Battlefront, but like the classic PS2 Battlefront of,
sure,
oh snap, like this is actually something really special, right? And then every now and then you might get your Star Wars Episode 3 games where it's like, oh, okay, this is whatever.
No,
but
the Episode 3 game was sick as hell. All right,
I like the fighting game mode.
There's the fighting game mode, and then there's the alternate ending that they included, where you play the last level not as Obi-Wan but as Anakin, and then you kill Obi-Wan at the end, and it's sick as hell.
That's cool.
I remember using cheat codes for that game so I could skip, so I could unlock all the missions. And I think I just did that ending mission when I was in the story. I was like, let me just do this last one because this is cool. But yeah, and I look
for
at
me,
the
it was
go for it.
Star Wars Jedi Power Battles.
Yeah, that's one Tim talks about all the time.
I played that game and I loved it, and it was difficult and it was all this stuff, and I'll never forget when Poe came over and he's like, "Can I try it?" I was like, "Yeah, go ahead and do it." And he saved over my save and erased all my progress.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you're still friends with him.
I was okay. You know what I mean? I was probably kidding myself if I was gonna, because it was like such an uphill battle. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But yeah, I look at the list of already announced Star Wars games and I'm like, okay, no, this is exciting. Like I'm not feeling like tired by looking at this list of Star Wars games, because again, some of these I'm gonna hop into, some of these I'm not gonna play until 2028 in the case of Star Wars Eclipse. My one request is give me a Star Wars Visions fighting game developed by Arc System Works.
Oh, bless. What are you
That's
doing
my big request.
That's my big
request.
My head.
That's all I'm gonna think about.
They would NetherRealm give me the violence. Yo, I'd be all about it.
God.
But for that, we'll have to wait. For now, let's hop into story number 2. Marvel has no plans for a video game MCU. This comes from Tom Phillips at Eurogamer. There are no plans for Marvel's many upcoming video game projects to form any kind of connected universe, the comic book maker has said. Marvel exec Bill Roseman set the record straight as part of a GamesIndustry.biz interview, which comes after a succession of announcements for upcoming Iron Man, Black Panther, and Wolverine games. Quote, "The world is amazingly very familiar and accepting of the multiverse," Roseman said. Quote, "We have all these different realities, now they're all real, and we want to give everyone the freedom to tell their story. We don't want to say you can't blow the moon up because this game over here by another studio needs the moon." I love that example. "We want to give everyone the freedom and the clear lane to tell their story," end quote. The most popular Marvel games in recent years have arguably been Insomniac Spider-Man titles. Other upcoming Marvel projects include Marvel's Midnight Suns from Firaxis, due in December. A Wolverine game from Spider-Man developer Insomniac is further off, as is the Iron Man game from EA's Star Wars Squadron studio, Motive, and the Black Panther/Captain America World War II project from Uncharted's Amy Hennig. Even Pokemon Go maker Niantic is getting in on the action, with Marvel's World of Heroes due to launch sometime in 2023. Finally, of course, Marvel's Avengers from former Square Enix studios Crystal Dynamics is still ongoing, with the Winter Soldier expansion up next. Just don't expect to see any of these stories cross over with each other, or indeed cross over to the big screen whenever the Avengers next ready for battle. Greg, we've been saying this, right? Like, this makes sense not to do an MCU style thing for video games.
Yep. And just for these reasons, like, just don't get in your developer's way. We've talked about it before. Don't let some journal entry Spider-Man found from from Mary Jane mean that somehow when you're playing Guardians of the Galaxy 2, there's a disconnect there, and you're like, well, this whole universe is bullshit. But it's open yourself up to too many problems. Let the individual developers make their own universes and then be the keepers of their own lore, right? Their own universes that they have to worry about.
I feel like we talked about this for Insomniac in terms of, since they're making both Spider-Man and Wolverine, the possibility of those universes collaborating. I don't know if we've talked about, I guess we haven't talked about it because it's so recent, the EA side of it, because they have Iron Man and then there's the rumored Black Panther game that they're working on. Do you think there's a possibility of even just a shared EA universe?
I hope not. I really don't like that, because it's the same thing. Is Black Panther being made by Motive? Motive's making Iron Man, right? Like, I think it's easy to sit there and go, oh, well, it's EA, but it's like, no, you have different developers working on this, so you'd be right into the same situation of, to Bill's example, in Iron Man, he accidentally blows up the moon, so then Black Panther has to have a destroyed moon up there. Like, that's a weird thing to hoist onto somebody, let alone for games that are being developed at the same time, right? That are going on. They have to check each other all the time and see what's going on. It just makes more sense to even out. And I think it also, you get into both one of the strengths of the MCU, but one of its weaknesses that will continue as you go forward in time, and one of the strengths and weaknesses of comic books, of continuity, right? Like, it's so hard to get someone as a comic book fan to pick up a comic book. Oh my God, you should pick up what's going on right now in Superman or whatever, Black Panther. Oh, well, it's issue 52. So I have to read the other 51 issues. Well, no, but you should know X, Y, and Z. It's going to be helpful to jump in with that. Like, you start having to do that homework and that math and that lore thing. Like, that is a strength of it, but it's also a weakness that turns people off. You know what I mean? And it is funny to think about if MCU continues its juggernaut run, right? Of like, when Ben is 7 and really is into this stuff and wants to actually enjoy these. And I'm like, well, let's go back and watch 57 movies.
Let's open up Disney Plus.
If people barely want to do that for 2-hour movies, no shot that they're going to want to do that for even 5 to 6, 10 to 20-hour games.
And there's always that thing where you'd
one
be
of
able
those
to
games
go
is
like
Marvel's Avengers,
God, somebody turns on Black Panther and they're like, wait, why is this? Well, over in this game and Iron Man, this happened. That'll be a cool thing for some people. Like, oh, maybe I'll go play Iron Man, but it'll be another turn off. Like, oh, well, like, that they don't like Iron Man. They started Iron Man. They don't even want to pay the other $70 for Iron Man. Like, no, like, I think there's room for it. I think, as we've talked about before, it would make sense out of all the examples we've given in this episode and have in the past. It would make sense if, they do it for Wolverine and Spider-Man. It's Insomniac. So it is all in one house. It is the same people. It's, different teams, obviously, but there's crossover and people know what they're doing. And it is easy to be like, hey, do we ever talk about who, Craven or whatever? Like, and he's here, like, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Like, you could have those kind of conversations much easier than if you were EA Motive, working with DICE or something and having to bounce that around and get those chains going and all that stuff. That could be cool, but also, what does it add? I think that's always going to be the biggest thing where, I've been very upfront about how much I like Marvel games and what they're doing. And that definitely means that there's plenty of games from Marvel games that I don't like or won't play or, didn't think were awesome, like Guardians of the Galaxy. But it does, I think, one of the guiding principles Bill always talks about, right, is like, he just wants developers telling awesome stories. And so I think if Insomniac was like, hey, we think it would be awesome for our Wolverine game to take place in the Spider-Man universe because X, Y, and Z, they'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense and that's cool. But just to be like, oh, it's in the same universe because that's cool, I don't think they'd be down for it. They'd be like, well, no, don't even worry about
it. So in this case, I want to ask you a question, Greg Miller. I want to do an exercise, actually. I want you to clear your mind. As the biggest Marvel's Avengers fan, the video game fan that I know,
There's that's better. I was gonna say, there's people who still actively play it, so they're probably bigger fans than me. Sure, okay.
Yeah. Say tomorrow, Crystal Dynamics comes out and they announce, hey, after the Winter Soldier expansion, we're done. We're shutting it down, right? And the day after, Disney approaches you, Greg Miller, and says, hey, we're making another Marvel's Avengers game, right? We want to do it right. We want to make sure that we're doing right by fans. We're doing right by the gameplay. We're doing right by whatever developer you give this to. What is your pitch on how to go about making a Marvel's Avengers video game after Crystal Dynamics?
Oh man, that's a great question. Obviously, games as a service, no, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? Like, I think you default back to, and I know we've gotten this, so stick with me, and maybe I'm being a little loose with it, right? Of like, I'm drawn to think like Ultimate Alliance. Not so much like Ultimate Alliance 3, but the Ultimate Alliances we had seen before, right? Especially even Ultimate Alliance 2, which was the Civil War, which was an awesome thing to see done for the first time. I didn't think the game was awesome. It didn't live up, I thought, to the hype of Ultimate Alliance 1. But I'm not even talking about the combat, which is kind of, Diablo button mashing, smash everything, get more shit, kill things. I'm saying in terms of, let's give you a cast of characters to work with to run through an awesome Avengers story. I think that's what it comes back to, right? I think a single player Avengers works, but the problem is I don't think a single protagonist Avengers works. I don't want to it's the Avengers game and I'm only Spider-Man. I'm making my new character. I'm only Captain America. Make that into something else, right? I think the idea of having, what I like about Ultimate Alliance is it's a giant roster that you can go through and play, and it's like having your toys in your toy box or whatever. I think Avengers could be cool in similar to what maybe Amy's doing with her 4 protagonist game of giving you perspectives on what's going on. But then you get into the same conversation of how do you do that and not make them all feel a little bit less, right? It was what we ran into with Marvel's Avengers, where it was like nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but for the most part, when people played that game, they weren't like, oh, this is exactly how Thor should feel. Oh, this is exactly how Cap should feel. They all felt good, maybe a little better than good, maybe great, but none of them felt amazing. They didn't feel like Spider-Man and Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is his own game, a world built around it, yada, yada, yada. So I think you have to limit who you can be in a true Avengers game, because I do want a AAA experience Avengers game. I have Ultimate Alliance. I want Ultimate Alliance 4. I want a new Ultimate Alliance that is chock full of everybody. Let's go through and smash it and do it. But I also want an Avengers game that is based around a storyline and you are going through. And so you get into this weird way of how to do it. Honestly, as you start talking about it, thinking about it, I think maybe what would be really neat would be a Fantastic Four game. Let's limit it to that. Let's have levels and situations designed around you're playing as Reed for this level. You have all these things, so you're using stretch powers and doing it. You have to be Ben. You have to be, Thing over here. You're Johnny, the Human Torch. You're Sue, the Invisible Woman. Start doing that and build a narrative around that. And then you get into these interesting cases of what could sprawl out from there. But Avengers, I do think, is an interesting and difficult nut to crack, because it is like, all right, cool, you can be 4 people. Well, there's 7 Avengers. Well, we want them all to feel good. Yeah. And, it takes a long time to make 7. And like, how would you do that? And then, okay, it can be multiplayer, but then what if you don't have friends and yada, yada, yada? Because then we're back to Gotham Knights, where Gotham Knights is going to be an interesting game to play. I can't wait to play Gotham Knights and see how this feels and works. And does it feel like I'm in Gotham because I'm using this Fortnite glider to get around and there's 2 Batgirls, and is that okay? And it's such a difficult narrative experience of dropping these people in there and having them go. I'm excited for it, but does that give the experience of what Avengers is for people? And then if not, how do you do that? I'm very dumb. I enjoy playing games, but I can't make them for shit. So how do you turn it around and go, okay, these are the only Avengers you can play at? Or we worked really hard and you have 7 Avengers to play with and they all feel good, but we're forcing you to play with them at certain times and not in others. And why? Then you're going to have people going like, why isn't this multiplayer?
Yeah. For me, the thing that makes it a tough nut to crack is when I look back and I think, all right, what made Avengers special for me when I first watched the Avengers movie, or when I watched Avengers Infinity War or Endgame, which is, I think, the build-up and then also the crossover nature of it, right? I know probably in the broad scheme that might be a small part of it, but that's a part that meant a lot to me. And thinking about it in terms of video games, right, like we talked about here, I think the build-up might be impossible unless it is a thing of, you have one developer and they are making a Cap game, and then 3 years later they release an Iron Man game, and then 3 years later it's Avengers or something like that, right? But that even is so much investment for something that's going to take a long time that might not even have to pay off that you want. So that lane I think might be impossible, right? I think the other example would be Marvel's Avengers, where in Crystal Dynamics game, there were moments of that story where I felt the hype of, oh shit, like Captain America is where? Oh shit, Iron Man is doing this thing at his house. And those moments hit for me.
Oh shit, Iron Man's at home.
Oh man, Iron Man's at his house. But like the moment at his house is pretty cool. But those things hit for me because it was essentially generic MCU Avengers. And so like I'm projecting the Tony Stark I see in the movie, right? Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark onto the Tony Stark in that game. And so I'm getting the hype out of that as opposed to that game necessarily building up those moments for me, and that those moments actually genuinely feeling like they led up to something. Like it's hard to capture that in a video game for Avengers.
And that's why, honestly, I think if I'm Marvel Games and when inevitably Marvel's Avengers ends, not even because X, Y, or Z, right? After Winter Soldier, in this example, they pull the plug. I would stay away from Avengers for a while, probably. I would do more Ultimate Alliance, which gives you everybody, but then I would do these single player adventures where everybody gets their due. They get their justice. They get to go be what they, get Captain America to be awesome and put him in World War II. Sure, why not? That sounds great. Have a Black Panther open world game. Awesome. Spider-Man, Wolverine, like do that, because again, like the critical success and the financial success of Spider-Man is because it's an excellent game that is built for that character. And one of the reasons Avengers isn't great isn't beloved and isn't amazing, right, is the fact that cool, we're spreading this out among multiple heroes during the campaign, which people enjoy, but then it gets kind of licensy with some of the villains and the choices and the narrative decisions, and then it opens up into this giant games as a service. It's not a games as a service. We're you don't want to, it's end game grind. It gets into this mess of ideas that when they developed it, X amount of years ago, games as a service was the buzzword. Everybody wanted to be the next Destiny and figure that out. Clearly, that's where all the money was going to be. And Anthem, and like that all evaporated while they were trying to run to it. And so, I think Marvel Games probably, I would assume, has recentered of our AAA games are going to be narrative experiences. They are going to be the power fantasy of being this hero, these heroes. If you're looking at something like Amy's game, right? But I don't think they're looking at as the AAA game is going to be the multiplayer games as a service. Let's run with it forever.
Yeah, I like looking at Amy's game as an example, because I think that can get fascinating in terms of where they go with it, and in terms of exploring the Marvel universe, because that's another thing that I really like about the team up stuff and the crossover stuff, is that it explores how big the Marvel universe is. After the showcase, I was hanging out with my friend Rihanna, and we were talking about Amy's game, and we are like, yeah, what if they did it to where the sequel is, all right, the first game ends and it is Captain America and Ice, and then he wakes up in modern day, and now instead of the 3 teammates he had back in the day, he's in modern day. It is him. It is the modern Black Panther.
Yeah.
It is a Dora Milaje, and it's a 4th person, right? Like, though I think moments like that could really hit and really feel like, oh shit, okay, now as that individual developer has this specific type of game, they're exploring the universe in a way that I think is worthwhile for Avengers. Like I'd be curious to see if somebody could take that same route with an Avengers game, but again, it's difficult, and I don't know I don't know if you can do that, and I don't know if it's even worth trying out, because I think you have to jump through a lot of hoops. I think the way Amy's team is doing it with cool, let's do something original. Let's find two heroes that are unique and pair them together and see where that can go. I think that might just be the way to do it.
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, you know what you can do. You can go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, where you can go and get the show ad free. And speaking of ads, let us tell you about our sponsors.
Shout out to NZXT Canvas gaming monitors. We are huge fans of NZXT here at Kind of Funny, and I gotta say, these monitors, they're Andy Cortez approved, Kevin Coelho approved, and Tim Geddes approved because of their sweet 1440p resolution with 165 hertz refresh rate and 1 millisecond response hits. That sweet spot for gamers due to the balance of picture and performance. They're available in 27-inch and 32-inch curved displays, variable refresh rate support for all of the major GPUs. They provide an excellent gaming experience for any game genre. You can get the monitor just alone, you can get it with a stand, or you can get it with some pretty cool mounts. There's built-in software support with NZXT Cam that lets you control all your monitor settings directly on your PC. No need to mess with the clunky hardware menus to lock in your desired settings. They thought of it all. It's sold exclusively on nzxt.com. You can learn more about the NZXT Canvas gaming monitors at nzxt.co/kindafunny. That's nzxt.co/kindafunny. funny.
Shout out to Uplift for sponsoring this episode. I've been using my Uplift desk for well over a year now. I love the thing so much I decided to write a rap song for them. The build quality is real good. It's made of real high quality wood. They didn't ask for it, I just did it anyway. Getting my Uplift desk immediately improved my mood. Whenever I'm on shows, I'm standing up, I'm feeling a lot more energetic. And also I kind of feel like I was just maybe creating some bad habits sitting down at a desk all day. I would move my legs up, I'd sit underneath my legs on my chair, and eventually all that stuff just created really bad back pain for me. Choose from laminate, whiteboard, bamboo, solid wood, butcher block, or even custom solid wood or laminate options. Uplift Desk won New York Times Wirecutter's Best Standing Desk from 2019 to 2022. And while I'm at it, I'm just gonna give them an award as well. Best standing desk that I use in my bedroom from when they sent it to me until now. Uplift Desk have a 15-year warranty. They ship the same day you order with free shipping and free return shipping. So if you've been feeling the effects of sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day, maybe you want some more energy in your life, maybe you want to do squats in the middle of a Zoom call or something, uplift your life. Go to kindafunny.com/uplift.
Story number 3. Speaking of crossovers, Overwatch 2 wants to explore Fortnite-style crossovers. This comes from Matt Purslow at IGN. Overwatch's commercial leader and vice president, John Spector, has said that he is interested in exploring brand crossovers similar to those seen in Fortnite with Overwatch 2. Talking to Game Informer, Spector said, quote, "I'm a big anime nerd myself. I think it's super cool when I see Naruto appear in Fortnite. I don't even play Fortnite, but that's awesome. And as we look, I don't even play Fortnite, but like seeing Naruto in it is pretty cool. And as we look at the Overwatch 2 space, those are things that we're interested in exploring. If and when we do that, one of our key values is to do it in a way that feels like a great fit for the Overwatch franchise," end quote. Spector added that Blizzard is less interested in displaying adverts in Overwatch 2 in order to fund its transition to free-to-play. The main generator of revenue will be premium-priced battle passes and cosmetics, which in Season 1 of Overwatch 2 will be Cyberpunk-themed. It's not difficult to imagine... Cyberpunk. It's not difficult to imagine Overwatch 2 launching seasons of content themed around other brands. Overwatch has previously crossed over with other Blizzard games for special skins, such as Widowmaker's Nova and Kerrigan Legendary skins, which reimagine the sniper as StarCraft 2 characters. Brand crossovers could potentially do a similar thing, as it's hard to imagine Overwatch straight up putting anime and comic book characters in the game, but who knows what Blizzard are thinking. After all, none of us ever expected to be able to do the Kamehameha in Fortnite. Greg, does the idea of more games doing these brand crossovers excite you?
Yes. If you ever watch me play Fall Guys, and then we did Fall Guys for like a week on the streams here, and every day I bitched about the cosmetic shop, and then they really turned it into high gear of doing like the Aliens crossover and the WWE crossover and all the stuff there, and making a bunch of bean suits that actually are things for people to care about. But I also do the same thing for Rumbleverse when I play Rumbleverse, and we were doing that. I'm just like, expand your item shop, get some stuff in here. Like, I know we're talking about capitalism and business and brands, and it's like, it's all, but it's also like, that shit's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like when we were playing Rumbleverse, right? Like, and doing the tournament thing, like I finally bought the levels to go make my guy look like a Ghostbuster. But yeah, I want a real Ghostbuster suit in there, and I want the real Ghostbuster suits in there too. Like, that kind of shit pops and makes it interesting. And it's similar to what Spectre's saying here of like, I don't know. I don't care about Naruto, right? I reviewed a couple games for IGN. God knows why about Naruto. But like, I got no like skin in the game about it.
I can't imagine you playing Naruto's Ultimate.
Can you fucking imagine like what IGN was like in 2007 to 2009 probably, where it was just like, we review everything. You don't know anything about the genre of the IP. All right.
Damn, it's like
I'm reviewing a Mortal Kombat game, everybody. What up? How you doing? I don't know how to do combos. But anyways, I think it's cool that it's there, and it's one of those things you can look at and be like, oh my God, but it's like that IP just doesn't hit for you, and it hits for other people. And again, my favorite season of Fortnite was the Marvel season. I fucking loved that, and I like wish in retrospect I played more of it. I wish I'd focused more on that rather than Avengers, because I miss it, and I wish it would, still be around and it was still going. But like, that shit's cool, and I do like those ideas. And so yeah, to see Overwatch do it, yeah, like I will never play Overwatch 2, probably outside of some weird stream or charity thing. So it doesn't affect me, but if I was playing it, I would want
hop
that
in. The water's warm. I based on how much you enjoy Fortnite, I think you might enjoy Overwatch. At least, I think there's a chance. I don't know if there's a strong chance, but like Overwatch is an easy game to get into because there's so many different roles, and I think we could find a role for you where you're like, oh, actually no, this is pretty fun. Maybe we can make you a healer.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah.
Make you a mercy
I want to
main.
be a healer.
Oh man, healing is fun though. I love healing in Overwatch. It's a great time. Also, I like this news. Like I think this is a good idea. I just hope they don't overdo it. Because when I look at brand IP crossover cosmetics in video games, again, Fortnite is the forefront example you give because Fortnite is known for it at this point. And I think the Fortnite art style works really well for that stuff. Like Fortnite's art style is so malleable and is so like, hey, you can throw anything in here and it's gonna work. It's like Smash Brothers, where you can somehow put anybody in that game and it's just gonna work, right? Because those art styles are created for anybody to hop into. I don't know if I would say the same thing about Overwatch's art style. That art style feels more defined and specific to what Overwatch wants to be. And I think with that, it might be a little bit difficult to implement just the crazy amount of IP crossover that you see in Fortnite and Rocket League and Fall Guys and all that stuff. But if it is hey, every now and then we're going to give you a Reaper Doctor Strange skin or like a cool Pharah Iron Man thing that like it's not you playing as Iron Man, but it's the Iron Man color scheme with like maybe an Iron Man logo on it or something like that. I think those can be really cool, but I don't want them to oversaturate Overwatch with it. I think part of what makes Overwatch cool as well is that I think the skins they have in the game already oftentimes are pretty sick. Like they're oftentimes pretty cool by their own standard. And I want them to keep that same standard of, hey, our skins are fucking sick and that's why you work for them. But if you can have a handful of crossover stuff that adds to it and not overtakes it, I think that's the way to go with it.
And that's the balance, right? Of trying to find out what works and augments the experience rather than hinders the experience. Where I think for a Fortnite, having all manner of skins is fun and neat because that's what that game is, right? Whereas, for an Overwatch, which takes itself a bit more seriously when it comes to that kind of stuff, putting in Iron Man skins and all these things might end up being like, okay, well, this isn't what that is. But like you're saying, there are cool ways to implement it.
1000%. Speaking of Cyberpunk,
I'm looking at this. It was Naruto Ultimate Ninja 2 is what I reviewed on the PS2. Oh my
God.
June 7th, 2007.
What'd you give it?
I gave it a 7.4. Good.
Seems like a safe.
That's like the safe review scores.
I had fun with don't know what you're talking about.
I had fun with Ultimate Ninja 2, and I only know the basics about the show and Naruto's tale. The story of trying to protect Leaf Village is engaging, albeit confusing at times. The fights look cool, and there's tons of stuff to unlock. However, I thought the implementation of controls and combos took away from the fun. Although there's a list of moves, as you memorize your special technique and then alternate between circle, X, and square, you're going to win. While the results look good, they feel empty. It wasn't like I was picking the moves I was winning with. So you end up sleepwalking through a lot of the fights and getting slammed by cheap challenges. After my umpteenth loss to Kabuto, I felt more like moving on to another game, then continue to face off with the blocking bastard.
Honestly, that's a good analysis. I think that's a good review.
Thank you.
I think you nailed it. Would you believe that just last night I was playing Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 and I finished through Goku's campaign?
I can't believe that for a second.
Yeah. No, man. Yeah.
Would you describe Naruto as a wacky anime? Because I did in this review.
I can see it. Yeah, it's wacky. I feel like most anime is wacky. So in that sense, yes.
Okay.
I would say like Naruto is like more like one of the more like tame anime that I've seen.
I'll be honest.
Yeah, but when you're Greg and you're like, my pool's pretty shallow as I jump into this, right?
That's true.
I mean, I'll confess, I'm not a Naruto person. It might shock a lot of people. I never got super into Naruto. I was way more of a Dragon Ball.
Let me tell you about the boy Rock Lee, because he's fucking cool as shit.
Yeah. Is Naruto worth watching it? I know it seems like there's a resurgence of people talking about One Piece.
Well, One Piece never went away, bless,
yeah, but I'm seeing it more and more of people being like, yo, One Piece is the shit. And I'm like, do I have it in me to watch 1,500 episodes of a show?
No, you don't. I barely do, and I'm trying. I'm trying my goddamn best.
Oh my god.
Mike's still stuck
I also did
like
Ultimate Ninja 3 review.
They're like, we gave you 2, you did such a great job, now we're going to give you 3.
I mean, it's not it. There's others I did, I think, too.
Jesus. Let me know if you did any DBZ games so I can really give you an analysis of whether or not those reviews are good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get back to you on that.
Type in Greg Miller Dragon Ball Z. As you're doing that, let me hop into story number 4. Cyberpunk 2077's quest director gets emotional about the resurgence. This is Ryan Leston at IGN. Cyberpunk 2077 is seeing a huge resurgence, and the devs are loving it. Speaking to fans on his Twitch channel, Cyberpunk 2077 quest director Powell Sasko explained what it means to see the game being picked up by so many so long after its original launch. Quote, "It's hard to express when you're putting so much heart and work into something," he said. Quote, "And for some of us, it's been 6, 7, 8 years sometimes, especially for those who started at the very beginning. So to have this moment of people liking something that we did, it's really feeling a bit unreal that finally people are appreciating it, end quote. Quote, "After the release, I couldn't believe. After some time, I did. But at the beginning, I couldn't believe. And I remember my dear girlfriend, she was seeing me fucking completely wrecked," said Sasko. Quote, "But it's good to be back. It's fucking good to be back. That was really so heartbreaking," end quote. To catch people up, right? Cyberpunk's numbers have been skyrocketing, and this is me, not the article anymore. Cyberpunk's numbers have been skyrocketing the last week. I have a tweet from Benji Sales on Twitter where he tweeted, this is about 2 days ago, so he tweeted this on Sunday. "Cyberpunk 2077 finishes the week going 7 out of 7 days with consecutive player growth every day on Steam and the #1 selling game," right? Talking about the daily peak concurrent players. Last Monday started at 78,000. Tuesday went up to 80,000. Wednesday, 86,000. Thursday, 89. Friday, 97,000. Saturday, 122,000. Sunday, it hit 136,000. So it went up every single day for that week. And again, like Cyberpunk announced that they had seen 1 million players per day on Cyberpunk for the first time in probably since launch. So good on you, Cyberpunk. Greg, did you find
good on you?
Good on you, CD Projekt. Greg, did you find
100%.
your Dragon Ball Z review?
I did. I would have told you, like, oh, no, I've never reviewed a thing, and this just shows how many games I reviewed for IGN. Dragon Ball Z Infinite World on PS2 I reviewed. I gave it a 3.5 on November 18th, 2008. But again, to my point of like knowing my strengths and weaknesses, and somebody else, oh, you really tiptoed your way through that last review. You're like, I fucking tried on all these, I'll have you know. So like, no, there was no tiptoe. I hung out there. But I like how I did this one. I like my approach to this one. Right, this is my opening. Mm-hmm. "You won't find a bigger Dragon Ball Z fan in the IGN office than Shivan Bahat, our media assistant. The guy's got full sets of toys and DVDs. He wrote college papers about the series. He learned to sing the theme songs, and he's watched the entire anime in 5 different languages, even teaching himself Japanese through the show. Now that you know that, know this, even Shivam thinks Dragon Ball Z Infinite World sucks. But this game has the worst Dragon Ball fighting mechanics I've ever seen," he said after fooling around with the controller for a few minutes before handing the device back to me with a look of disgust.
It's also a good
really
way to dig yourself
game,
out that hole.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
That's such a great pull for that review.
Just because and that's how ironclad I wanted to be on all these reviews. Like, I don't know the source material. I'll bring in somebody who does, and then I can talk about it as a video game, and then I will shit all over it.
No, that's a really great way. Let me tell you, Greg, I played a lot of DBZ games on the PS2. I had to look up Infinite World. I did not remember. I thought you were going to say Sagas. I thought you were going to say like maybe Burst Limit on the PS. Infinite World is one I don't think I've even heard of somehow. And so, yeah.
Happy to be here. IGN.com. Right. Keep it locked.
Thank you for your DBZ analysis, Greg Miller. Let's hop in to story number 5. Take-Two has pulled out of an agreement with People Can Fly. This is Matt Parris Lilley at IGN. Outriders developer People Can Fly has announced that it is parting ways with Take-Two, the publisher of its upcoming game codenamed Project Dagger. In a statement published on its own website, People Can Fly revealed that it has received a letter from Take-Two detailing its intent to terminate the development and publishing agreement by means of mutual understanding between the parties, end quote. The split will see People Can Fly retain the intellectual property rights to its game, and so it's free to either self-publish Project Dagger or seek a replacement publisher. The developer will, however, still have to pay back Take-Two for the money it provided to fund Project Dagger's cost. The details of this repayment have yet to be determined and will be arranged depending on how the game is eventually published. Project Dagger has been in development for 2 years at People Can Fly's New York studio. Very little is known about it aside from the fact that it is a new action-adventure IP. In a statement, People Can Fly CEO said, quote, I assume we'll part on good terms, and I don't see reasons why we couldn't work with Take-Two on some other project in the future. We strongly believe in the Project Dagger's potential and are now committed to continue its development within our self-publishing pipeline. The game is still in pre-production, and our team is now focusing on closing combat and game loops and migrate from UE4 to UE5. I'm conscious that this decision will add investments on us, but self-publishing is part of our strategy. Of course, we are not ruling out working with a new publisher if this creates a compelling business opportunity, end quote. I don't see this happen that often, I feel like. At least publicly, where you see.
I think that's the thing. You don't see it publicly. I bet it happens privately all the time, and I've known a few that privately have happened that are games you never heard of or didn't know were about to happen. I think it's just the fact that since People Can Fly got some juice off of Outriders, and then I think this one did get announced, right? Mm-hmm. It was this idea that, okay, well, now that it's happened, you have to talk about it not happening.
Yeah. I want to say the only other time, or at least in recent memory, the other time that this has happened has been with what's the name? The Aspire studio with Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake.
Sure.
When they're like, hey, this is it wasn't like this, but it was the leak first of, hey, they're not working on this game anymore because they showed it to the publisher and they're like, fuck no, we're not publishing this. And then you see the news later on of them being like, oh yeah, we moved this game to another studio. But yeah, very fascinating, very interesting update. I'm actually looking forward to whatever People Can Fly do next, because
Outriders was
pretty fun.
Real fun. Yeah. Outriders set its sights on being this game that you would play through and be done with, and they accomplished that. And we all had a great time with it, and we all make fun of Yakum, but we had a good time with it, and we should not look past the fact that that was a fun game, and video games are allowed to just be fun.
Exactly. Let's round out with story number 6. Far Cry 6 Game of the Year Edition has leaked. This is Sean Murray at The Gamer. Far Cry 6 is reportedly getting a Game of the Year edition, and it's getting a new expansion, which might be worth the rebranding. The news comes courtesy of Microsoft/Xbox leaker Agior Nementi Lumia, who provides us with this marketing image from Microsoft's store's database. The quote Game of the Year upgrade pass end quote includes the season pass of the 3 DLC missions where you play as the past Far Cry villains, Voss Montenegro, Pagan Min, and Joseph Seed. The ultimate pack of in-game. The ultimate pack of in-game equipment, including the Vice Pack, the Croc Hunter Pack, and the Jungle Expedition Pack, all of which are available to purchase as microtransactions and an expansion that is yet to be described. Far Cry 6 did receive several story-based quests as free content releases, culminating in the Stranger Things themed quest, The Vanishing, back in March. Greg, you played Far Cry 6. Do you remember The Vanishing back in March, the Stranger Things themed quest?
I do.
Okay.
Actually, I didn't play it. That was the big thing. If you remember, Far Cry 6 obviously dropped last year. A game I played the shit out of and platinumed and had a great time. And it was during paternity leave, I was working on the platinum, and it was just the drop in, and I could play it for 30 minutes. I could play it for 15 minutes. I could play it for 3 hours if Ben gave us that much time. And I could just go through and feel great and climb in my little helicopter car and fly off and fight a bunch of things and feel good about it. And it was that idea of like, I'm having so much fun with this. And there was it was a review code they had sent us. It came with the season pass, and it was like, oh man, Danny Trejo's coming, and they're doing the Stranger Things, and they're doing that'll be interesting. And I never touched any of that, which is just like, I think so common for these kind of games that have these giant things, these passes that they want you to buy in for. You're in that moment, you get excited, you do it, and then you never come back for it.
For the last few Far Cries, they've had DLC season passes that seem incredible, and then they come out and I never hear anybody talk about them, and I don't even touch them. I remember Far Cry 5, I had played some of the base game, didn't really enjoy it, but I looked at the DLC pack and I was like, oh, this sounds awesome, like this shit sounds amazing. And then it comes out and nobody I knew had anything to say about the DLC stuff. And this is the same thing.
That's most Ubisoft expansions, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or
think of Assassin's Creed. Valhalla added all this shit. Even Odyssey added all this shit, and it's like, it's
even Origins.
Such a weird thing of how fast Ubisoft games, in particular, we'll just talk about Ubisoft, but how fast Ubisoft games wear out their welcome. Where it is that thing that they drop and they're fun and we're enjoying them, and then it's just like, you could, if you want to. There's somebody who went by in the chat. Adam Sheridan here on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. I'm still playing Far Cry 6. I got it for Christmas last year. That's how these games are. They're everlasting gobstoppers of content, and that can be fun, and that can be a comfort food, and can be this thing. But at some point, it becomes not exciting. Where I think of the last Ubisoft DLC I got super stoked for was the Valhalla Odyssey crossover, right? And that was the fact that they were bringing back Cassandra, and that did reinvigorate me to play more Valhalla. But it was the fact that we hadn't gotten anything for Odyssey in a while that then made it exciting. When it is that there's just this constant spigot of content that's going on, and like even for Odyssey, and I'm a huge fucking Odyssey fan. That DLC that was go to the heaven, not heaven. What do they call it? Shit, fuck, sorry. That would not
Greek mythology.
What mythology is Odyssey? Egyptian?
Greek.
Greek.
You
just said.
I literally just said Greek.
Elysium kebabs. Thank you. Elysium. Go up there. Like, that was just so weird and not what I wanted out of that story that I didn't finish it. I was like, I don't know if I Cerberus or whatever and do all this shit. And then Valhalla, like I never want to touch the Zeus stuff or anything like that.
Oh, that stuff is so cool though. Way
and
better
it's just not my jam. Like
yeah.
I like the grounded, and I'm doing the thing, and like
that's
I don't know what this
what
is.
I want to bring up. I want to pivot really quickly. Blessing. I think we should implement a law that you can only give your game a Game of the Year edition if you were actually given at least one Game of the Year by an outlet.
Oh, that's what I was going to bring up.
Somebody gave Far Cry 6 Game of the Year.
Who? Who is this person? So we can talk. So we can have a civil conversation.
Someone in the
PS I
chat
Love
made
You
the joke of-
XOXO. We said I voted for it to be trophy list of the year or some shit like that. So there you go.
Do you think that's what they're pulling here? Do you think they're like,
oh
yeah,
so.
we got trophy list game of the year, and so we're just gonna give.
Someone in chat said Josh from Idaho's Game of the Year edition for Far Cry 6, bro.
Because we need to talk to that person or outlet that gave Far Cry 6 Game of the Year, and I just want to ask them, did they play any other games last year? That's all I want to ask. That's why, hey, like, no, you play Returnal, you play It Takes Two, you play Forgotten City, you play.
Let's go. We're gonna go to reception here on Wikipedia.
A lot of games came out last year.
It's
I think Kana came out last year.
Awards and accolades.
Yeah, right. Yeah, awards and accolades.
Stuff,
it's
but nothing.
Nominated for a bunch of stuff.
Nothing. It got absolutely nothing.
It also, what's interesting here for awards and accolades, it is nominated for a bunch of awards, but I do not see it nominated for a Game of the Year award.
Yeah,
I'll
get to the bottom of this.
They're nominated for apparently performance based on Giancarlo Esposito. They're like, yeah, performance. Well, that's Game of the Year now.
Apparently, it won Best Action Game in 2021 at Gamescom last year. Cool.
But like, that's pre-release. That's like before the game was out. That was a preview.
That's really weird too.
That can't be it. We're gonna get to the bottom of this. Kindafunny.com says you're wrong. If you're watching, I need you to find the outlet and/or person that gave it Game of the Year, and then
Sam Paulus in the chat says Ubisoft's Game of the Year.
Ubisoft McGee's Game of the Year
because it's the only game they came out with last year.
All right, I'm so excited to get to the bottom of who gave Far Cry 6 Game of the Year, but us figuring out who the culprit is just so far away. Greg, if I want to know what's coming out to mom and grop shops today, where would I look?
The official list of upcoming software across each and every platform is listed by the Kinda Funny Games Daily Show hosts each and every weekday.
Yeah. Out today, we got Grounded for Xbox Series X, Xbox One, and PC. Hako Life for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Life is Strange Remastered Collection for Switch. The Fridge is Red for PC. The Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero for PS4. I like that rhymes. PS4, Switch, and PC. Tunic is out for PS5, PS4, and Switch. Moonscars is out today for PC, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and Switch. A Bad Game of Football is out in early access on PC. Dual Universe is out today for PC. Domekeeper PC. Black Witchcraft for PC. Casual Challenge Players Club for PS4. That sounds like an easy platinum. Life in Willowdale Farm Adventures for Switch. Penco Park for Switch. Roots of Tomorrow Mobile. Tip Top Don't Fall for Xbox One and Xbox Series X. Kana Bridge of Spirits has received an anniversary update today, including a new Game Plus mode, among other features. Desta, The Memories Between, is out now on Netflix. Funny enough, I think did we talk about that game yesterday? Wasn't that that was the dodgeball game that we played at Summer Games Fest? I'm pretty sure.
It was, yeah, it was. That's why I made sure to get it on there. Real quick, I did a Google for you. You can get the platinum trophy in Casual Challenge Players Club in 30 to 45 minutes, according to Node Gamers.
You're gonna do it? You getting tempted?
No, I'm good. I only do the ones if they're 3 minutes or less nowadays. You see Touch the Hedgehog and all that shit?
No, what is Touch the Hedgehog?
Don't worry about it.
Can I tell you, Bear? I know we're running late on the show. I apologize.
Tap the hedgehog.
I'm gonna drop something in assets for you, Barrett. Although it will be an attachment. Kevin told me once that we can't open attachments, so maybe you would. Never mind. I just won't do it. Basically, I typed in Sonic the Hedgehog into that Pokemon Maker thing people are doing this morning. It's like a Pokemon automatic AI generator. Let me tell you, my Sonic Pokemon looks sick as fuck. Maybe I'll show you in the post show.
Okay.
And then the Rumbleverse mid-season update is out today.
Woo!
New date for you. Shatter Remastered Deluxe bounces towards Windows PC via Steam, Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X, and Xbox One on November 2nd, 2022. We have one squad up for you. Frankfurter writes into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, just like you can, and says, "Hey y'all, Frank here. I've been MIA for a bit because life has gotten busy. From work to babysitting 5 dogs, trying to podcast, and planning a wedding. It's been hectic, to say the least. Which is why I want you all today to reach out to a loved one you haven't in a while and just chat with them. Life can become so hectic that we lose track of time, and life is short. Take some time for you and your loved ones and give them a quick call or text to remind them that you love them. I love you all and hope you are all doing well. Frankfurter. Love you too, Frankfurter. Great writing.
Great writing.
For kindafunny.com/you're wrong. Rewrite in, let us know what we got wrong as we got it wrong so we can correct it for those watching later on YouTube, listening later on podcasts. Let's see here. That's not a you're wrong for us. Boehner SN writes in with not a you're wrong, but context for Marvel Games output, which I actually appreciate because I was going to look that up, but I didn't feel like it. Ultimate Alliance 3 and Super Wars we got in 2019. Avengers, Iron Man VR, Miles Morales, and Duel we got in 2020. Guardians of the Galaxy and Future Revolution we got in 2021. And this year we've got Midnight Suns and Snap. So you're getting a lot of Marvel games. You're getting at least 2 Marvel games a year. And that's what Star Wars wants to do. So if you like it for Marvel, you might be fine with it for Star Wars.
You'll be fine. Just don't play. I mean, ignore everything until they make small Watto.
And then multiple people have written in to say, according to GameAwards.net, Far Cry 6 got 2 Game of the Year awards from websites BGR and EFTM. BGR and EFTM.
These definitely sound like sites you go to and you get a virus.
That sounds like sites that Ubisoft set up to then give their own games Game of the Year. BGR sounds legit enough.
It's like a shell corporation, but like a shell outlet.
And a shell outlet, yeah. And that's it for kindafunny.com/you're wrong. Me and Greg nailed it. And Barrett nailed it. Great job, y'all.
Crushed it.
Let's do this again sometime. Tomorrow's hosts for Kinda Funny Games Daily are me and Kelsey Lewin, so get hyped for that. Ooh. If you're watching this live on YouTube right now, over on Twitch after this is Mike, Andy, and Greg playing some Grounded, so get hyped for that. If you want to catch that stream later, you can subscribe to youtube.com. It's Kinda Funny Plays. Remember, this has been Kinda Funny Games Daily, each and every weekday live right here on youtube.com/kindafunnygames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. We have a Patreon post show for those that are subbed at the silver level of patreon.com/kindafunnygames, so stick around for that. Otherwise, until next time, Game Daily.